Well, hello there. It's so great to see you, and I do hope that you are well. It must not have escaped your notice that there's a whole bunch of new locomotives coming through from Bachmann, and one of these has really caused quite a stir. It's the Class 31, and there's two main reasons that this caused a stir. Firstly, another manufacturer was actually also working on it as well, so we got ourselves a head-to-head, and it's the Bachmann model that's appeared first, so it's the Bachmann model that we're going to be taking a good close look at. But it has another USP, that's a unique selling point, a coupling system if you buy the sound-fitted deluxe model that allows you to remotely uncouple using conventional tension lock couplings, and this has the potential to be quite a game changer. Now, we've seen Bachmann's own video demonstrating this, but I want to see just how well it works on a rather questionably laid layout like Weir Yard. So come with me, and we're going to be putting the all-new Bachmann Class 31 through its paces, and yes, I did spring for the sound-fitted deluxe, so we're going to be able to look at all of the features of that, including the sound installation, the automatic uncouplers, and that spinny roof fan. So I'm really looking forward to this, I'm sure you can tell. And don't forget that we've got a link down below if you really like what you see, where you can pick up the full range of the Bachmann 31s, including the unique special commission of the Fragonset version from TMC, the Model Centre, where we think that these are available at some of the keenest prices on the internet. So get your orders in today. There's a wide range of different liveries available to suit anybody, from the introduction of the Class 31s through BR Blue and onwards to the shadow privatisation and privatisation itself, and of course including that Fragonset liveried version from TMC as well. But let's take a good close look and see what we've got from Bachmann. Today's video comes in association with Trainomatic, makers of DCC decoders and accessories that are designed by enthusiasts for enthusiasts. Find the full range available to order now at tramfabriek.co.uk. Additional support comes from...
This is Clark Railworks, and this is what we do. You'll know us from Ellis Clark Trains, and you'll get the same friendly expertise with us too. We've got a huge range of pre-owned model railways from all your favourite manufacturers, and maybe some you hadn't heard of before. It's the place to come for quality. We don't stock substandard models, and everything we sell is fully tested and photographed by model railway experts. No matter whether you model double O gauge, N, HO or more, we have sought after models from all around the world with new listings added every weekday. Check out what's available now at clarkrailworks.com, and don't miss out on your latest loco.
The new Bachmann from Class 31 is probably one of the most eagerly awaited models of recent times, and the reason for this is not because people were starved of Class 31s. There have been previous super detail models, in fact going back quite far. I don't think a Class 31 has ever been out of the ready-to-run ranges. Certainly they've always been available for as long as I can remember, going back to some truly awful Airfix ones with fixed middle wheels in the bogies, but we've moved on a huge way since then. And the reason that this model has been eagerly awaited is because it's the first model that's been made available with DCC operated uncoupling mechanisms, and this is unique so far for the UK market. Certainly in the US market, I've got a Broadway Limited model that's got KDs that you can remote uncouple digitally. But for a tension lock coupling, it's been quite a difficult ask. But Bachmann unexpectedly announced that they were doing the Class 31 and that was going to be its USP. Now, I've sprung for the sound-fitted deluxe version, and if you want that particular feature, you have to go for the top-end model, and this features the sound decoder as well as a spinning roof fan. So there's a load of extra features. Now, they are actually quite competitively priced if all you want is the DCC Ready model with none of the bells and whistles, and I think they're an RRP of $169.99, or certainly that's the price that you can purchase them for. And I think for a lot of people that would be absolutely perfect. It is a Plux 22 model, and thankfully there are aftermarket Plux 22 models coming through, but the sound fitted and the sound fitted deluxe versions all come with, I think it's a Zemo sound decoder in there, but certainly it's all set up for the locomotive and ready to go. The version that I've bought is 35-805A SFX. Bit of a mouthful, but I was really quite taken with the tops numbered rail blue version. So this is a class 31/1, 31293 in BR blue. And as you can see, we've got the sound fitted deluxe logo on there. It's a standard Bachmann style box. We're just going to empty this out. Now we do get some extra paperwork in here, and one of these is the all-important sound function lists for the DCC decoder, and you can see instantly on these there's a lot going on. So we've got various different sound versions: horns, light engine mode, engine idle, speed lock, cold start, flange squeal. And then we've also got auto release coupling number 1 and number 2 end. What I found with these is you do need to have the locomotive set to go in the correct direction, otherwise it won't respond to those until you do set the correct direction. And if you get bored of the voices, then there is a option there with F13 to devocalize the uncoupling sequence. Some of the versions have a high intensity light, and that's on F15, and although this model doesn't have it, the sound decoder does have the switching sound of it turning on, so I guess it's one sound decoder fits all. Looking further down, we've also got cab lights, engine room lights, and the means to toggle the directional lights. Now, one of the functions as well, which I've not seen before, is to have either 2 or 1 red lights at the end of the train. Now, if there was one criticism at this stage, it would be that actually the auto-release couplings would be better off being somewhere in the first 10 functions, or certainly the first 9, because these you're actually probably more likely to use than some of the other functions, and is really going to be a useful thing when you're doing shunting. And on a lot of DCC controllers you have to mess about to get some of the higher functions, but it's a minor gripe. We also then get a booklet here which tells you exactly where to put all of the separately applied bits and pieces, which is always really helpful. And what's interesting is the auto release couplings appear to be an aftermarket thing, so I don't know whether you can actually retrofit these to the Class 31s. Certainly I was looking at the all-new tooled Class 25, and the sound-fitted deluxe versions of those don't appear to have this option, which is a shame. So let's just get rid of all of this, and then I'm going to get the model out of its clamshell. There's the extra parts. We've also got a blanking plug, which being a Plux 22 could be quite useful. We've got snow plows and all of that pipe detail. There's enough for both ends. And strangely enough, we've also got regular couplings to replace those auto uncouplers. I'm not sure why you'd need those, but it's always useful to have spares of those knocking around, so I will definitely take those. First impressions of the model are that it is very weighty. It does pack a nice punch here. Bachmann have got a lot of weight into the model. The blue does look quite shiny out of the box, and certainly this, I guess, is an ex-works locomotive, but they very quickly got a little bit of dirt and grime onto them. And so what I would suggest is that it may be an opportunity to do a light weathering with some frame dirt and just tone some of that down, and that is an option. If you follow our link down below to TMC, you can choose to have your models with a value weathering. If you want it to be a really work stained and abused model, you can go for something more advanced, but I think for the average modeler, just a light weathering would be more than enough toning down this really quite glossy finish. One of the other things that we've got as well is we've got the anti-glare film on the cab windows, correctly applied just to the side windows, not the center one. And actually this is a really nice effect, and it's something very reminiscent of when you see real locomotives pulling into the station. It's got this almost like, I liken it to if you put a tiny little drop of petrol into a puddle, that sheen you get. It's a similar effect on these. We've got separately fitted metal etched windscreen wipers. They do look very good. And then the rest of the detail with the riveting there, really nicely done. The crisp finish on that is nice. The yellow does look to be slightly thick in places. It might just be an illusion, but certainly there's no bleed through of the blue, which is important. And I suspect that it's had a couple of passes to make that so. Cab windows are all flush, really nicely done. We've got some lamp irons on here, and then we've got the marker lights. These red lenses, they actually look red even when they're not switched on. Really nicely realised, and then some additional pipework details, handrails, and the overhead warning flash is nicely realised, plus the blue stars. Looking down to the buffer beam, we've got none of the piping factory fitted. There is an orange jumper piece here, and I suppose that is a very noticeable piece, but if you want to add anything extra, then you're going to have to add them in, and it's an either or with the tension lock coupling. The buffers heads do look quite thick. Rather than being turned metal that we've kind of become spoilt with, these look to be a plastic head, but we do get the relief detail on the back there with the rivets, and the amount of spring is quite pleasing. The auto uncoupler is fairly unobtrusive. Certainly when I've got this on the layout and running it, it's not too bad. It doesn't foul the track, which is important, and it fits in underneath what ostensibly appears as a regular tension lock coupling, and as you can see, it doesn't affect its regular operation, although it would mean that you couldn't use, say, a paddle to effect an uncoupling. You're going to have to use the onboard DCC function, which actually, when I've put it to the test, is pretty easy to use, and I found it quite effective. I was a little bit worried that it was going to have issues with different coupling heights, but I tried it with a couple of different wagons and it did seem to work quite well. Certainly a lot of testing appears to have gone into this, and Bachmann does seem to have got a good result out of that. It features full engine room lights, and this is another area where I did pay close attention, and you can see in there we do have a representation of the engine room detail behind each of these windows. This is quite important. I've seen models with engine room lights and all it does is show you off a circuit board and wires, but this, a lot of thought has gone into that, and it makes it a worthwhile feature. We've got some really nice louvres, and they appear to be posed in slightly different positions here. Again, it does look pretty good. They look like almost like each of these louvres is separately fitted. I don't think it is, but it is a really nice result, and the overall look and feel of the Class 31 is captured really well. When you look down the body there, you can see the almost like a flat top down the middle is realised really well. To fit these into the loading gauge, they had an almost squashed look to them, with a more severe tumble home at the sides, and then this almost flat down the middle, and this does seem to be captured really well. We've got metal fitted handrails, and they're not opening cab doors, but to be honest, not really bothered about that. How often are you going to use that? Almost none, I would say. The cab detail does look really nice in there, and it does feature independently switchable cab lights, but I found these quite dim. Now, this may be prototypically accurate, but I found it very difficult to see whether they were on or off, and I would say that in model form it might work slightly better for the modeler if they were a little bit brighter, and there doesn't appear to be any way to control that brightness. The bogies are exquisite. We've got all-wheel drive and what appears to be, I think we've got all-wheel pickup as well. Certainly the model performed reasonably well on Weir Yard, but it's very apparent that there is no built-in stay alive, and this is another area where I feel that Bachmann could improve this model. It doesn't need an awful lot, but there were a few occasions where there was just this slight stutter, and I've noticed when it does stutter, the engine room lights flash on and off, which kind of draws attention to the stutter, even if the sound itself doesn't fully cut out. The wheels are of the correct pattern profile with black finished faces, and there's a huge amount of depth to these bogies, and looking underneath it does look as though those modelers who use EM and P4 might be able to swap these out for their appropriate wheel sets with relative ease. We've also got some switches here on the underside of the fuel tank. The full fuel tank is modelled, and I particularly like this sort of pressed steel pan effect. You wouldn't normally get to see that, but it is really well realised, and those two switches I think are for the red lights, although I haven't investigated further. This being sound fitted deluxe, I can turn those off in the DCC, so that's more for the DC modeler. There is a lot of extra detail. If you just look down there, we've got a riveted access hatch, and it's just little details like that which really do look good. The couplings fit into standard NEM pockets, and then the wires plug down into there. We just got a JST connector for those auto uncouplers. It's not clear whether the regular models can be upgraded. It looks like it might be available as a separately fitted part, but you would need a decoder that is keyed in to make use of that, just as you need one that will operate the roof fan. Although I don't think that the non-sound deluxe actually include the mechanism for that. They will just have a dummy fan. The roof hatches are nicely realised, although some of the panel gaps do look to be a little bit on the big side, just between some of these hatches. It's not really a desperate issue. I do like the very, very fine etched grille over the fan, and we've got a lot of the detail in place where it should be. I would say as well, a little bit of a sooty mark around these exhaust ports wouldn't go amiss. The pristine clean version does look nice, but I think a light weathering is something which might really bring out the best on the model. And it's one of those things that I think the factory weathered versions are going to prove particularly popular. Even though we've got acres of rail blue, just as per the prototype, the extra detail is picked out nicely. These overhead warning flashes are legible under microscopic scrutiny, and we've got additional markings down the side. I'm not actually 100% sure what these yellow markings are, but they are all there where they need to be. I do like as well, you can just see through there all the detail, the cutaways right where they need to be. The primary and secondary suspension there, really beautifully realised on these bogies. Additional detailing, everything is where it needs to be. At the end of the day, people always say I'm really generous with my reviews, but I say if there isn't a problem that is readily apparent, why should you try and make one? And with this model, certainly it has really exceeded my expectations. There's a number of different versions announced, from original green right through the BR blue. As you see here, we've got some shadow sectorization liveries such as mainline, which are forthcoming, and then we've got the privatization eras, and there is, as said in the intro, a Fragon set livery which is exclusive to TMC. Today's video is sponsored by TMC, the Model Centre, your first choice for finding all of the models featured today at the best possible price at the link in the description. TMC also offers custom weathering and renumbering to any model, be it brand new or pre-owned. Check out their full pre-owned listings too, where you can be assured of quality as every item is screened and graded by professional staff. TMC, the Model Centre, your first choice for all aspects of modelling. When it comes to running on the track, this is an absolute highlight of this model. It was absolutely silent when I put it on the track and just ran it with the sound switched off. There was no sign of cogging, and it really was one of the most silky smooth mechanisms that I have ever come across. Loaded up on the main line, it hauled a very long parcels train with absolutely zero hint of a struggle. There is plenty in reserve, and I suspect that this will pull a far longer train than the real locomotives ever could, should you wish to tax it. When I took it to the tortured test track, it got through the point work absolutely fine. It took in the gradients and even some of those really tight curves. I think that Bachmann do recommend not less than radius 2, but I actually had it through a very short section of radius 1, and it did make it round, albeit with a little bit of a generous overhang, but it does mean that this is a very flexible model. All told, it's quite a utilitarian livery. The rail blue with the small logo in the centre is probably one of the utilitarian unsung liveries of this class. Working through the 70s and into the 80s like this, it wasn't until sectorization that an explosion of colour started to be painted on these, and certainly I'm very looking forward to Intercity Swallow and Regional Railways, two of my absolute favourites, but this did catch my eye. There are actually 2 different BR tops numbers available in this first batch, and they're sure to prove very, very popular. When it comes to DCC Fitting, now strictly speaking, I don't need to delve into this model because it's already factory fitted, but we've got a couple of screws that we just need to gain access to, and again at the other end we've got some extra screw holes down in there. I'm going to need a thinner screwdriver, and we get to these just down through the side bogies, and again down this one. Looking to the other bogie, we've got a screw hole down here. It's a little bit tight, but it is coming. Just take it a bit gently. You do not want to round the tops of these screws, or you will be in a world of hurt trying to get the body on and off. I feel the last one moving, and then we should be able to just slide the body off. I think we've got just a little bit there. Now be careful, because there are some wires attached and they don't appear to give you a generous amount of wires, so that's as far as the body is able to come off. You can see the fan unit on here, which is motor driven. There's a small motor there, and then we've got the factory fitted speakers, one at each end, and there's our Plux 22 socket. Now it has to be a Plux 22. You cannot use a 21 pin, even though you might think that you can just get a pin to pin adapter. No, they're wired completely differently. Looking inside, the cabs are fitted to the body. It's not an easy enough task at all to get in there if you want to fit a driver figure. I'm just looking in there. There are no driver figures fitted as standard, and you can see the little cutaways with the engine room detail, which are really quite nicely done there, just so that there is something to see through the windows that is not all of this electronics. And then it's just simply a case, once you've DCC fitted, to lower the body down. That is actually quite straightforward. There's no secret clips or any rubbish like that. It is a nice positive on and off, and then it's just a case of doing the screws back up and away you go. So we turn now to the scores. First up is build quality, and actually there just isn't anything of note to detract from this model. It's withstood my heavy handling with no detail coming free. Everything about it does feel very well put together. Even when you take the body off, everything in its place and a place for everything. I do particularly like as well the method chosen for these auto uncouplers. They use a standard NEM pocket, and there's no weakness inherent in this, and I like the nice neat plug to transfer the control power through to the body without impinging on the sideways motion of the bogies. With nothing really to fault, I'm going to give this the full 10 out of 10. On running quality, the model really was silky smooth. There's just no sound whatsoever from the motor. With the sound functions turned off, it was absolutely silent and smooth, with no evidence of cogging, even when running on what is usually the Achilles heel of any model locomotive, down a grade very, very slowly. It just was perfect. Out on the main line too, the haulage capacity was incredible. There was no sign of slippage, and even on the torture test track, it didn't faze the locomotive in the slightest. The only area for concern was that it really does need something in the way of a very small stay alive just to gap it across any problems. And what I did find is that when you have a little bit of a issue on the track, it kind of stutters and the engine room lights flash, and I think that a factory fitted stay alive, even very small, would go a massive way to improve that. So with that the only fault, I'm going to give it a 9.8. On DCC fitting and innovation, well, I'll start with DCC fitting. Whilst it takes a Plux 22, you're going to have to get used to this. Plux is the all-new NMRA standard across Europe. It is very, very common, and it's us Brits who are the outliers in this area, so it's nice to see that Bachmann are standardising. You should also note that Plux 16 and Plux 12 decoders will fit and work in a Plux 22 model, and likewise the other way round. We do have a link down below to Tramfabriek, who are the UK stockists of Train-O-Matic, and they do carry a full range of aftermarket Plux 22, Plux 16 and Plux 12 decoders, and certainly they would be the ideal choice for this model. On innovation, well, that's where this model totally shines. I like the lighting. Even though the cab lights are a little bit dim, I can forgive that. They're prototypically accurate. The engine room lights, normally considered a gimmick on a great many models because all they do is show off the integrated circuit board. On this, the thought has gone in. We've got those relief details of the real interior, and I think that that is a great development. But we're skirting around the main features. That spinning roof fan is superb. We have seen that before on some of the other sound-fitted deluxe models. But what this has that no other model before it has had is a perfectly backwards compatible automatic uncoupler for a standard tension lock coupling. That means there's no need to replace the couplings on your existing rolling stock, and this really is a game changer. Putting it to the test here on Weir Yard, it did work really, really well, and I was pleasantly surprised. I thought it might have been glitchy, but it was certainly not, and I'm going to give this a full 10 out of 10. On accuracy and quality of finish, Well, from what I've seen, I can't really fault too much on this. It's a great representation of an iconic class, and the only thing which I might detract from this is this super shiny gloss finish of the rail blue. I think it's something that maybe slightly more of a satin finish would have been a better result, but maybe that's just my opinion. I'm going to give it a 9.7. On value for money, the RRP for these models is pretty expensive in the grand scheme of things if you go for the Sound Fitted Deluxe. If you follow our link down below to TMC, we've got a price structure of $169 and change for the basic DCC Ready version, which is very competitive. Certainly, it's in keeping with what the competition that is forthcoming is offering theirs at, so that's certainly something which you can't fault. When it comes to Sound Fitted, we've got a price on TMC of £263, and the Sound Fitted Deluxe is $305. It is a big ticket item, and it's just the way of things at the moment. Certainly UK models are still less expensive than their European counterparts, but it is definitely going to be quite a hit in some people's wallets. Even so, it's pretty reasonable for what you get, and I'm going to give this a 7.5 out of 10. That gives us a final score of 47 for the all-new Class 31 Sound Fitted Deluxe from Bachmann. Well, I really hope you enjoyed that video and found it informative, and certainly I've been pleasantly impressed by this Bachmann 31. Now, I did buy this with my own money, so I'm beholden to nobody on this particular review, but I always say I'm honest, and if things don't have a problem, we don't need to work really hard to make a problem. And in this case, the Bachmann 31 has actually exceeded expectations from my point of view. One of the real highlights for me is actually that spinning roof fan. Now, I've come across this before from other manufacturers, and it is an interesting feature. You might think, just when you're looking at specs, that it's like, I don't need that, that's extra money, and I'm never going to get the full use out of it. But when you actually see it operating in person, and moreover, operating all the time, even when the locomotive is stationary and the sound is running, it really does add an extra dimension of realism, and I found myself quite liking that. I also really like the motor in this model. It can't be said just how smooth and quiet it was. I even tried running it downhill on a gradient really slowly, and this is quite a challenge for a lot of locomotives, and you get a little bit of cogging and you get a bit of a growl from the transmission on the overrun. And there was just nothing from this 31, absolutely nothing but silence. When you turned the sound off, it really was silky smooth. For a long time, I've used a Hellion Class 05 as my benchmark for locomotive smoothness. And I think that this Class 31 has certainly reached that level, if not surpassed it. So it really is a great offering from Bachmann. Now, it is a little bit expensive, but that's just the way that model railway costs are going. But we have a link down below to TMC, the Model Centre, where you can pick these up, and all the other different livery options, including their special commission of the Fragonset livery at what we believe to be some of the keenest prices on the internet. So do check it out today and tell them that Jenny sent you. And I'd really love to hear from you in the comments section too. What do you think about this Class 31? Is it a must-have item for you? Or perhaps you've spotted something that maybe I missed during the review. It's also a great opportunity to kind of take a good close look at the system, which is also going to be appearing on the Bachmann Class 08 and 09 shunters. And certainly on a small little diesel shunter, I think this is going to be the killer app. And certainly I'm really looking forward for those coming through. But I'm sure you've got an opinion. Leave a comment down below. It's always a great way to share your knowledge and insight with your fellow modelers. And until next time, don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and check out our full merch store for all of our exclusive bargains, including hoodies, t-shirts, mugs and more. And until next time, this is me, Jenny Kirk, saying you take great care of yourself. Happy modelling. Bye for now. Today's video comes in association with Trainomatic, makers of DCC decoders and accessories that are designed by enthusiasts for enthusiasts. Find the full range available to order now at tramfabriek.co.uk. Additional support is provided by...
This is Clark Railworks, and this is what we do. You'll know us from Ellis Clark Trains, and you'll get the same friendly expertise with us too. We've got a huge range of pre-owned model railways from all your favourite manufacturers, and maybe some you hadn't heard of before. It's the place to come for quality. We don't stock substandard models, and everything we sell is fully tested and photographed by model railway experts. No matter whether you model double-O gauge, N, HO or more, we have sought after models from all around the world with new listings added every weekday. Check out what's available now at clarkrailworks.com and don't miss out on your latest logo.
Today's video is sponsored by TMC, the Model Centre, your first choice for finding all of the models featured today at the best possible price at the link in the description. TMC also offers custom weathering and renumbering to any model, be it brand new or pre-owned. Check out their full pre-owned listings too, where you can be assured of quality as every item is screened and graded by professional staff. TMC, the Model Centre, your first choice for all aspects of modelling. I'd like to thank everybody over on Patreon, and an extra special huge thanks goes out to our Patreon heroes. Without you guys over on Patreon, we really wouldn't be able to keep making the video content that you see on this channel. And don't forget that you can also head on over to patreon.com/Jennifer Kirk and check out the different tiers of rewards. Thank you so much. You are absolute legends.